Hey, this is MJ, and in today's tutorial I'll be showing you how to make our Riverstone granny bag. This is a really fun project and it coordinates well with the Riverstone Crocheting pattern. The bag is made up of 15 granny squares, and it's this beautiful puff stitch square that starts in the round and then it goes into a square, finishing it off. So I have a diagram that you can check out on the blog that will show you how to assemble and put it together, and I'll also work through those steps with you in the tutorial. This is an intermediate pattern, so you will need to be familiar with your puff stitches, and then we'll be working with basic stitches. But the puff stitch can be a little tricky to get the hang of. So if you need to slow down the tutorial, there is settings below the video. So you want to click on that gear icon and slow down the speed of the video if you need slower directions. Now what's great about a bag pattern is that you can easily substitute yarns, and the sizing isn't a huge deal for a pattern like this. Now our squares are 5 inches by 5 inches, so you want to try to match that if you're looking for a bag the same size as the one that I'm making. I've used worsted weight yarn, and I've used this beautiful upcycle alpaca blend. This is a limited edition, so when the yarn is no longer available, you can easily sub it for any worsted weight yarns. But this is a really beautiful blend of alpaca, wool, and acrylic. And the colors that I have used are fruit punch, linen, and parchment for this pattern. And you'll need 2 balls of our parchment color, which is this sort of taupey color here. The linen is sort of this lighter kind of pinkish color, and the fruit punch is our darker color here. And then this color that I'm holding is a little bit darker shade, again, the garnet, but all of these shades are beautiful. And I also have shown a few other options of color combos that you can put together in the photos and on the blog. So here showing some of the orange colors. We've got purple. You could do a blend of the greens, the blues, really anything that you are drawn to. So here's showing the blues, and then you would border this with the parchment, and here showing the green. I really love how we can go with the different shades to make it go darker as we go. So it looks really nice to choose some of these other colors as well. So the yarn that I've purchased is from We Crochet, and I'm also using the Dots crochet hooks for this pattern. You'll need the 4.5 millimeter or the hook needed to obtain the correct gauge. And the set comes with 9 hooks. If you're interested in these hooks, you get a 2 all the way to a 6 millimeter included in the set. Now I do find these hooks crochet up a little bit tighter than if I were using a furls crochet hook, which you see me use quite often. So if you're using one of the furls streamline hooks, I would say maybe try a 4 millimeter, as I do find the difference in the hooks does change the gauge slightly. But try and get your square into that 5-inch dimension if you want the bag to be the similar size. But again, because it is a bag, if it's a little bit off from that, it won't make a big difference. It is nice though if you keep it an even 4, 5, 6 inches for blocking purposes. If you get the blocking mats that have the lines, they're going to go in those 1-inch increments. So it does make it a lot easier for blocking if you can get it right on that 4 or 5 inch or 6 inch mark. So let's get started. So we have our 4.5 millimeter crochet hook. We're going to be starting out with a magic ring. So I'm going to take my yarn, wrap it around my index finger 3 times. I'm going to take my hook, sliding it through all 3 loops. Take your first loop, pull it through, and chain 1. Now we're going to work 6 puff stitches in the ring. So we're going to yarn over, go through the ring, pulling up a loop, yarn over, go back down, pulling up another loop, yarn over, Okay, so we want to have done that 4 times. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 loops on our hook. We're going to yarn over, pull through, chain 1. So we've completed our first puff with a chain 1, and now we're going to do 5 more of these. I'm not going to work through them all so slowly, but let's do it slow again one more time. So yarn over, pull up a loop 1, yarn over, pull up a loop 2, yarn over, pull up a loop 3, yarn over, pull up a loop 4. Again, you should have 9 loops on the hook. Count them out to make sure. I know in some of my other patterns, if the odd time you've had to only do 3 to make your yarn stretch a little farther, a 3 isn't going to make a huge difference. But if you want all your puffs the same, make sure to do them going through the 4 times. So I'm going to complete now all 6 of my puffs with chain 1s. Okay, so I have all 6. I've chained 1. Now I'm going to move my work out of my way just so I can see those inner loops. I'm going to take my tail, pull, just one loop's going to pull in. The loop that's pulling in, I'm going to take it, grab it, and it's going to pull that other loop in tight. Then I'm just going to take my tail, giving it a tug. Now I'm going to slip stitch in the top of the first puff stitch to join, and then I'm going to slip stitch over to, or slip stitch into the chain 1 space. Okay. Now I'm going to chain 1. Now in every chain 1 space around, we'll be working now 2 puff stitches, so we're going from 6 up to 12. It's always good to give a tug when you're going through and pulling up those loops. Just, it is a little bit tricky to get the hang of the puff stitch, but if you give a tug each time you're going through, I automatically do that. It's going to be easier to pull through those loops on your hook. Chain 1, 1, 2, 3, 4. I always just count as I'm going through to make sure I get those 4. And chain 1. So that's in the first chain 1 space, and we're going to do that in each chain 1 space around. Okay, so let's just go through the next one together. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, chain 1, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and I'm going to repeat this around. I'll meet you up at the end. Okay, so now I prefer not to weave in any tails, so I'm using the thumb join so that I don't have all of those extra tails to weave in. So I'm just going to cut, I'm going to measure roughly. I'm thinking about 1 inch. I'm just going to cut about 1 inch. Okay, just about 1 inch, and I'm going to join in my next color, which is the linen. I'm going to do my thumb join. So I'm going to take the yarn, move my hook out of there. I'm going to bring in my new color beside my thumb. I have some videos on this, and this can be tricky to get the hang of. So if you have another method that you want to use for this, that is absolutely fine. Use whatever, and make sure to test out the yarn you're working with. I know this yarn is going to hold really well, but depending on what you're using, you may want to change the method. If it's a silky yarn, you don't want the knot coming undone. So I'm going to go around my thumb and the tails 2 times. Then the 3rd time, I'm going to take my tail and I'm wrapping it between my thumb now and the tails. Then I'm going to take my tails, tucking them in under this strand of yarn that I've wrapped. Okay, so I'm going to tuck them and then I'm going to pinch with my fingers. So make sure you're pinching with your fingers and pull. And sometimes it will slip through a couple times. You can always trim if the tail is a little bit fluffy. You can always wet the knot a little bit too, just to make sure that it's going to be nice and tight. Okay, so the point is that you do that quickly, because if it takes you too long, you might as well just weave in those tails, right? So you want it to be quick. Now, if your puff has started to pull back, no worries, you can just complete that puff again. We're going to chain 1. Now we're going to slip stitch over. Sometimes you can play around with how much you're slip stitching to get that knot in the right place. Okay, so I've slip stitched twice because I want to try to get that knot right close. So this one I could have probably had a little bit less a tail. I just play around with it. I want to try to keep that knot invisible at the back so I'm not seeing it. Then I'm going to chain 1 because I want to be pulling through the new color. So again, you can just play around with your slip stitches. Maybe you only can slip stitch once because you're to the knot. Really just whatever, play with it. Then we're going to start into our next puff stitch round. Chain 1, we're just doing 1 in the first chain 1 space. And now with our increase pattern, we'll be doing 2 in the next, because each round will go up by 6. Okay, so our pattern is 1 and then 2, 1 and then 2, 1 and then 2 around. Okay, so I'm just going to complete this now all the way around. So we had 12 the last round, so this round will be going up to 18. Okay, so once we're all the way around, we're going to slip stitch in that first puff to join, and we're going to slip stitch over to the into the chain 1 space and chain 1, and now the repeat pattern will be 1 1 and then 2, 1 1 and then 2. So we'll work 1, 2, and then 2 in the next. Okay, so now we're going up by another 6 stitches. So we're going to be up to 24. And this is another tip. If you're altering rows at all, some people have thought, well, maybe I'll just do one less row if my gauge is off, or do another row. You have to have a multiple of 4 for your square to work out. So 24 stitches will divide by 4, so we're perfect for our corners. So that's something to keep in mind if you're playing around with this pattern. You need to have a multiple of 4 or it's going to mess you up. Okay, so I've completed this round, ending with 2. I now have 24 puffs, and I'm going to change color. So I'm going to cut this off, and I'm going to bring in the final color, which is the Fruit Punch. So I'm going to do another thumb join. Again, if you want to weave in those tails, that's okay, or use your preferred method for knotting. Oops, and I pulled that puff back again, but again, that's okay. One. Okay, and this time, when I redid that puff, I'm pretty close, but that's okay, because I'm just going to, if that happens and you're that close, first of all, you can redo your puff and make it a little tighter, or let's just slip stitch right over to the chain one, because I want to be pulling up with that color, and that's really okay. You have some play with those slip stitches, so don't worry too much about that. So now we're on to the round that's going to square everything up like this, and this is really easy to do because we have a nice divisible number by 4. So we're going to start with a chain 3. That's going to count as our first double crochet. Then we'll work 2 doubles, chain 1, and then 3 doubles. So that is a corner. And now in the next chain 1 space, we're going to work 2 doubles. We're going to work 2 half doubles in the next chain 1 space, 2 singles in the next chain 1 space, 2 half doubles in the next, and then 2 doubles in the next. Okay, so we've worked over 6 chain 1 spaces, so that will be one of our quarters. So we're to our next corner, and we'll work 3 doubles, chain 1, and 3 doubles. Okay, so we've made this corner, and now we need to repeat the sequence here. So that will be two doubles, 2 half doubles, 2 singles, 2 half doubles, and 2 doubles. And then this is really going to help even out our square. And I'm just going to repeat now my next corner and go around, meeting you on the other side. Okay, so our last space is going to be right here, and we're finishing with 2 doubles. And now we're going to change back to the parchment. I'm going to cut a little bit longer tail. Now I'm going to be stitching over to the corner chain 1 space. Okay, so I want to try that I'm pulling through with the parchment on that last slip stitch. Now I'm going to chain 3, and we need to make a corner. 2 doubles, chain 1, and then 3 doubles. So now we need to be working over a total of 16 stitches. Sometimes you can miss that first double crochet there. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there's a total of 16, and it's a good idea to count as you go around because it is really easy to miss a stitch. And then in every corner we're doing 3 doubles, chain 1, and 3 doubles. Now you're going to find it's going to look a little wobbly, but blocking is going to help again to fix this. So make sure you count as you come along. It can be trickier to get into these finishing slip stitches. Just make sure you have a total of 16 across. You can finish with a seamless join. You're going to want to fasten off. So you're going to want to go through the first stitch, back through the back loop only of the last stitch, then you can just weave in the tail. If you have any knots poking through to the front, just push them to the back. So for this bag, you're going to need to make a total of 15. You're going to want to block them out on a pegboard or your blocking mats to measurements. So you should have a 5-inch square. So make sure when you're blocking it out to that. You can just spray them or you can wet them all in some wool wash or some dish soap, rinse them, and then squeeze out as much water as possible and then lay them out, pin them to measurements, or use the pegboard. So I've completed all 15 squares and they have been blocked, so they look nice and beautiful. You can see that they're shaping up really nicely and all squared off. Have a little bit of parchment left. This is what I have left in linen and the fruit punch. So we will need a second ball of the parchment for finishing all of the edging. I will pop up a photo in how you want to lay the squares out, but you basically start with this V shape here. And then I like to just lay out that I have 3 going downwards. Again, the photo is going to help you because I can't really fit this all in. Place 2 here, 2 here. And as you get to the bottom, it's going to look like this. So I can't fit it all on camera, but I will pop up a photo for you so you can see, and you can also go to the blog to see how we need to put the bag together. So there's different seaming methods that you can use. Really use your preferred seaming method. I'm going to do a single crochet join and I'm going to show you how to do that. But you can use a whip stitch using a similar technique if you want. It really is preference. The slip stitch join is nice as well. which I've shown in other tutorials. But I think for this tutorial, I'm going to show you something a little bit different, and we're going to do a single crochet. So what you want to do, try and join as many as you can too without fastening off, but make sure you have your squares all laid out so you can sort of see a pattern for seaming them. So I'm going to move this one out of the way. I'm going to start here, and I want that my squares are right sides facing. I'm going to get a slip knot on my hook. Okay, so we want to seam these two here. So find your corners, and we're going to go through one square and go through our corner of the other square, and let's make a single crochet. Give your tail a tug. So now we're joined up. So now what we're going to do is single crochet. If you were doing a whip stitch, you would have your yarn needle and tail, and you would do the same thing, the loops that we're going to go through. So we're going to look at our stitch, and you want the loop that's closest to us. So on this square, this would be your front loop. Okay, and that back loop we want to go in, and then on the other square, we want the loop that's farthest from us. So the back loop on that side. So we want those two other loops of the stitch going to the inside. So go through that back loop, and we'll work a single crochet. So it's sort of the first loop you see, which is the front loop of this side, the back loop you see there, the back loop, and just work a single crochet. So really simple. If you prefer to use your hook rather than a yarn needle, you would, if you're using the yarn needle and doing the whip stitch, you would do the same loops, just using your yarn needle to weave through. But if you like using your hook, just working a simple single crochet. The important thing is you're grabbing the right loops so it looks nice on the other side. So front loop, across, back loop. You always want those two loops that are sort of kissing, touching, to not be crocheted in. You're going to get a totally different look if you crochet through both loops. I like this look because it gives us a nice little edge on the other side. So I'm going to continue working this across, and then I can show you how it's going to look. So all we're going to do is now flip this one. So those right sides are facing. They're kissing each other, the right sides, okay? So now, we're just gonna go back down through the same one. We're gonna go over to that other corner, and we're going to single crochet, and then we're going to do the same thing working across. Finding that front, and then the back. So we have those two loops being unworked that are to the inside. We want the outer loops, the one closest to us, and then the one farthest from us. Once you if you get these sandwiched in nicely, those are the loops that are going to be right sort of available to grab. It's harder to grab the ones that are going to the inside. So it makes it pretty quick to work across, making sure you're grabbing the right loops. Okay, so I'm coming to that final corner. Okay, so once you finish single crocheting in that corner, you want to take a peek, make sure everything is looking good. You want to pull it back before you continue on. So I'm just going to go to the next two that are in line with this. Okay, go right through those corners, working the single crochet, and let's just keep going. Do as many as you can without fastening off. That's the goal. You can follow your own pattern. You don't have to do it exactly how I'm doing it. But once you get going, just try to keep joining as many as you can without fastening off. Okay, so I have seamed all the edges so that we have the piece nice and flat. And then what we're going to do for putting the bag together, you want to fold it. Okay, so we're folding it like this. This piece is going to get folded in. Okay, and we're also going to have to seam the sides to put it together, and then these pieces are going to get folded like this. Okay, so now for seaming it, we'll want to go that the right sides are facing. Okay, and we can probably go, so if we start here, we can work from here to here to here, and then we can fold this and get this side, and then we can do the same thing over on this side. So we'll go from here, here, all the way to get this side done as well. Okay, so next, once you have everything all seamed together, I now have the right sides facing, so the wrong sides are to the inside. Okay, so we'll want to put a slip knot on our hook, and we're going to join to our chain one space here in this corner. Okay, so with a slip stitch, and now I'm going to chain 100. You can chain out however many you like and try the bag on. It's going to be a crossbody sort of style. So if you don't want it quite as long, you can alter this chain. I suggest chaining it out and then just putting it on and seeing if the length works for you. If not, just alter it, make it longer or shorter. Okay, and then what you're going to do is come over to the other side. We're going to slip stitch that to join. Then I'm going to work a single crochet. I'm going to turn my chain, and I'm going to single crochet across the chain through the back humps of the chain. Okay, so I'm going to work that all the way, working through those back bumps of the chain. And what that will do is give us a nice edge on this side. A little easier to work into later. Okay, so just take your time and work through each of those back bumps across. Okay, so when you get all the way down, you're going to single crochet into that same space. I'm going to single crochet again for the next row. Try to keep it tight. Okay, so I'm going to turn and I'm going to go back. And I'm going to single crochet back across. I want the strap fairly thick. Okay, once you get all the way over, we're going to single crochet. And now I'm going to single crochet around the edge. So it's pretty easy as we go through each stitch. So I'm gonna go through the stitch of the square, each stitch working across, and then when we get here, I am going to single crochet into this space, and then I'm gonna go over and single crochet into the other chain one space. I'm not gonna try to stick anything into that section. I'm just gonna do the spaces when we're coming down to that section. So let me work across here. When I get there, I'll show you. So single, single, and then I'm just going to keep working my way around. Made it back around to the strap, and I'm going to keep going. I want to do another round. I want this strap to be much thicker. I'm going to do another round on this side, and then we will also have to do 2 rounds on the other side of the bag, finishing this edging as well. So I'm going to continue just working. So I've come to my last stitch. I come over and just continue to work right across. I'm crocheting over that tail as I go too, just to save a little weaving. And I'm just going to keep working all the way around. So now once you get all the way around, the entire way back around, so I've now done the edging twice along this side of the bag, I am going to fasten off, and we're going to do this as a nice seamless join. And to do the seamless join, you're going to go through both stitches, come back and go through the back loop only. And that's going to make it so that it's not, the join isn't as noticeable. And then we can just weave in this tail to secure that. Okay, I'm just going to leave that for now. And then what we're going to do is we want to come over to the other side, and we're going to do the same thing. We need to go around 2 times. So I'm going to join into the strap. Actually, maybe just the stitch below. I'm going to put a slip knot on the hook. And this is going to finish the edge on this side. Work a single crochet, and I'm going to work single crochets, and we're just basically going around two times. So because we worked into that back hump, you can see the stitch here, and it just makes it a little easier to work into. So I'm just going to continue working around two times. So this strap's going to end up with 2 more rows attached to it. So once I came all the way around, I did the seamless join again, finished it off. I've woven in all of my tails, and you can see this is what the strap's looking like. If for any reason you wanted to make it thicker, I would just say do another round on this side, another round on this side, and you would have a bit thicker strap again. So here's our finished bag. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you did, please give this video a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel and tap the bell to stay updated on all my new videos and tutorials. Make sure to check the description box below the video for all of the links to the pattern and supplies. Thanks so much, guys. Have an awesome day.